Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome back, everyone, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSperts. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. Now, it's Tuesday. That means Andy's over at BetSperts Golf talking about all that good stuff, and Matt Rooney is somewhere else with our dose of baseball and hockey. So, we're going to do a little redub here of the network show, and we'll bring in Spread Astaire here to talk a little tennis and basketball. Mr. Astaire, how are things over there in sunny California? It looks all right.
Oh yeah, man, it's great here. Beautiful weather, been enjoying it, and then of course, a great time of year for us with my French Open in the morning, the NBA in the evening. The only drawback has been these NBA games have not been too entertaining. What have you thought about this spate of blowouts that we've endured over the last couple of weeks?
It's really strange to sort of put your finger on it. I wonder if in the Miami Boston series, it's a little bit of, Miami's dealing with some injuries, and I wonder if up 2-1 in Boston last night. I don't know about you, but it didn't look like those guys were going terribly hard. I mean, PJ Tucker and Kyle Lowry were kind of like sticking their hands out a lot, but I didn't see anybody really running terribly well. I mean, what did you think of the game last night overall? Miami seemed to get down early, and we're like, okay, I guess we'll just go home and see what happens there. It didn't look like a full effort.
Yeah, I thought it was a really disappointing effort from the Miami Heat, and I expected Boston to bounce back. But I think it's an indictment on both these teams that they can't put two games together that well, and I'm wondering how that will correlate when they go into the finals because uh, this Boston team, the way that they need, like Robert Williams said, right? They need to get punched in the mouth to respond. That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem like the traits of a champion here. So let's see if they can do something to turn it around. Of course, they did win Game 6 and Game 7 in a row, but it felt like against Milwaukee they kind of did the same thing, right? They looked great. They looked like this championship caliber team. They looked like the team that we saw, from January when they made that turnaround all the way into the playoffs, but they can't put a couple games together in a row. And I'm really confounded why the fact that they're so talented and I believe they're well coached. I don't think it's on Udoka or Spolstra. I just don't understand why the players are having problems putting together these consistent efforts. Do you have any theories about that?
I wonder if part of it is, when you think about these games, these 7 game series, it's a lot like a chess match, and there's time for teams to go back. And Spolster's made some great adjustments. And you watch some of the things they've done. Miami's come out and really forced Boston back into playing a lot of that ISO ball that I know a lot of us were concerned about at the beginning of the season last year. And they got out of it in spades during the regular season and looked a little bit better last night. And I think actually in general, though, I'd push back on how uncompetitive, quote, some of these games have been. I thought the first 3 games of this series were, I guess the first and third games of the series were pretty good. I mean, even the Boston blowout of Miami, that game was tight, I think, for about 3 quarters before Boston got ahead of themselves. But you look at the other series, Golden State and Dallas. I mean, maybe it's just a 3 point shooting thing, and I hate to do that. I hate when people say that. But you look at the Dallas games, and clearly, I mean, Dallas one game shoots threes. It's a pretty competitive game, although Golden State wins 126-117. But the other two, they're just not making baskets. So I think maybe it's been a little more entertaining, but it's unfortunately the last 2 nights have definitely been stinkers, and we'll see. I mean, I think Miami will be much better when we get back home. I mean, how do you feel about Golden State on the other series?
Yeah, I think I mean Golden State here. Looking forward to the finals. Will it be a gentleman's sweep? Probably, and of course we'll get into that a little more. Do you want me to just go ahead and give the pick right now?
Might as
What I
well. Let's
like
get
for the
into it.
game? Yeah, so I like the Mavericks on the first half. Right, I feel it's safer. I feel that that Golden State third quarter is just really tough, right, to try and overcome. And I don't necessarily want to write this team off, but we talked about, and it's funny that I gave, I was given an indictment of Boston for not playing well, but Golden State's thrown away games before, right? I mean, it felt like they did that against Memphis in one of the games here. I do like the Mavericks to come out strong here tonight. I'll be honest, I expected them to do really well in game 3, and it wasn't like they didn't scheme the ball well. I mean, Bullock and Kleber were missing wide open shots here. It's not like it was, they were taking these contested shots. The Golden State was just forcing them into terrible looks. They just couldn't get them to fall. Maybe a little less pressure now. Everyone assumes the series is over. So kind of the pressure switch to Golden State here as things go ahead and close it out. The other thing is Golden State is kind of, they like having that party at home, right? They like their home fans. They like the Chase Center. Steph wants to dance, the place going crazy. I don't know if they're too worried about about winning this in 4. Winning in 5, I think might be fine for them. But I am worried about that Golden State third quarter, so I'm going with the Mavericks first half.
I'm with you here too. This is always a funky spot for teams that have come out and won 3 games, and again, 2 of them pretty convincingly, probably all 3 pretty convincingly. And Golden State knows they have to fly home anyway, so what's the difference between playing another basketball game when you get there or not? And you look over at the Eastern Conference, that series looks like it's going 7. I expect some better shooting for Dallas, and again, I'm not sure if they're going to win the game or be able to cover the number, just given how good Golden State has been. But give me the Mavericks team total over here. I think it's a spot where, again, they'll be back home for the second game in a row. We know that they generally shoot much better, and last game, obviously, that didn't hold form, under 30% with 45 attempts from 3. I mean, if I get the same 45 attempts that we've seen all 3 games, and they can get even close to 33%, I think they're comfortably over this number. Again, it'll be Dallas's last effort. That stadium really does give them a lot of juice. And like you said, we saw it in the Memphis series, and we've seen it with Golden State before. They generally close out at home. So good spot for the Mavericks. I like your first half look. And are you going to be betting Golden State third quarter? I mean, that's everyone's favorite bet at this point.
Yeah, but I don't do it pregame. I'm going to wait to see live, because let's just say Golden State gets out to a 10-point lead at the half, right? And I lose my first half bet. Then the third quarter is kind of moot there. So I'm watching. I'm going to hope the first half hits, and then I'll go ahead and hit it at halftime. And my ideal situation here is the Mavericks cruise, get a nice, easy first half victory, right? 5 to 10 points, something like that. And then I can come back on that Golden State third quarter number. So that's my plan of attack for tonight.
Yeah, it's always the thing to look for. It is just amazing what kind of adjustments they can make. But one final question: who wins the title, the Golden State Warriors or an Eastern Conference team?
I'm on the Warriors here, and I know that's not going to be popular amongst a lot of the guys that we network with who are really high on these Eastern Conference teams. But boy, that battle of attrition is going crazy there as these guys are getting beat up. Marcus Smart, who means so much to that team, still dealing with the sprained ankle. Of course, with that going 7, he should be good, but it's always rough. Your conditioning gets a little worse. Tatum had the shoulder stinger here. On the other side, Butler, Strus. I mean, it looked like a regular season injury report yesterday with all the Heat players on it as well. I think 5 of their most 8 main rotation players on the injury report not going to be good. Well, Golden State's going to get a little bit of time off here. Golden State's now won. They're 20-2 in playoff series under Steve Kerr, right? So, I mean, this team knows how to get done. They lost to the Cavs and the Raptors since Steve Kerr's taken over, right? Both in the NBA Finals here. And I know that it's probably not fun, right? Because I know a lot of people that aren't living in Northern California are pretty tired of watching this team win. For me in Sacramento, it's all we got, right? I mean, greatness by proximity. I mean, my team's got no chance of ever doing anything worth of note. So, I like to enjoy their success. But boy, I really think this team plays so well. And I think one place that they're really underrated is on the defensive end, right? I mean, I watched last night, and the announcers and all our friends on Twitter are talking so much about how these teams are so great defensively, the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. And I think the Warriors defense is right up there. And also, I don't think that either Miami or Boston has the size in the middle to really hurt Golden State, the way that I would try to attack this team, right? And Kevon Looney's probably their weak spot. He's been a big spot for the series against Dallas, but they have even less centers. Maybe Robert Williams can get loose. Maybe Bam Adebayo can get loose. But in the end of the day, I trust the experience of the Golden State Warriors. And I almost think that Steph's getting to the point where he's a little bit getting underrated here. I think we're forgetting how great Steph Curry truly is as a player. Expect him to be the best player on the floor as well as the stronger supporting cast. So, and it's rough because you look at it right now, minus 150. Don't know if I want to get in on that. That's what it is right now. If you're to bet the Warriors win the championship, but I think game by game, there'll be an opportunity to extract the value on the Golden State side.
Yeah, I'm really matchup dependent. And part of the reason I asked Eastern Conference, I figure I'd give you closer to 50-50 shot. But if it's Miami, I don't think they have anybody to stay even close to Curry. That should be a great series for him. I don't know if Miami, again, even if everyone's healthy for some unbeknown reason, is going to have enough firepower. But Boston is a really tough matchup for Golden State. I wonder if they have the guys to handle both Tatum, both Brown, and again, it's Steph Curry. He's going to be great, but Smart is going to do as good of a job as anybody. You've got Robert Williams, you've got Horford, a little more mobility there. So I'm going to wait. Once we get to the finals, I'm going to be eyeing maybe some Celtics and things like that. But yeah, it's probably Golden State. They look like they're finally playing some good basketball again.
Yeah, I mean, I personally I like the Warriors a lot. I've always liked them, and I think it's a lot of fun. I think a lot of people are kind of tired of them, and that's kind of what happens here, right? With these dynasties, right? Everyone got tired of the Patriots, right? So I think there is a little bit of fatigue there, but I think it's also causing us to overlook some of the greatness here. I mean, Thompson, what a great shooter, and the fact that he's able to come back and just give a really solid contribution here. He's not, the same level of star he was, but he's still playing good defense, and you can't leave him alone behind the 3-point arc. So it gives you the space, the gravity you need. And then Jordan Poole, he gives. I don't know how well he do as the number one option, but as the 2 or the 3 or whatever option he is there, so many opportunities for him with everyone else staying home on the other shooters here. And then Andrew Wiggins finally has found a role in which he can excel. And, maybe a lot of, maybe he shouldn't have been the number one pick, but the guy is wildly athletic. And when all you're really asking for him is to defend well, grab some rebounds, and then hit the open shot, win the offense, when it comes to you within the flow of the game and you're not forcing things, he seems to be doing great there. And Draymond Green is such a good defender, maybe the best defender of our generation. I mean, or the current generation that we're watching. So this Golden State team to me checks all the boxes on both sides of it, as well as Steve Kerr being a great coach. And it's so funny on Warriors Twitter, they always go after Steve Kerr. And I'm like, what do you want from the man? Like, what more could he do? I mean, I thought he's done a great job with the team.
You just look at those third quarter. That's coaching. That's as simple as that is. That's making adjustments and being able to attack the team. He is. It's bizarre to have someone who's been such a good coach be underrated like that. But that's enough NBA talk. Let's switch to the fuzzy balls from the big balls. How's the men's side going? I've been paying too much attention. Has any big upsets? I still see Djokovic, the Alcaraz kid. They're still around. There's Nadal. Tsitsipas hanging down on the bottom. How's the men's side going?
Yeah, I mean, what men's side like it usually goes, right? Chalk, chalk, chalk. And you mentioned the 4 players that I really think are the only ones that really have a chance to win it. Apologies to Alexander Zverev. I just don't believe in him, right? But you mentioned the 4 guys that are there. So you hit it right on the head. This is what we do, right? As tennis fans. And of course, we do bet the sport, but you watch the women the first week because it's more unpredictable, more level of competition. And then the second week is when the men really take stage, right? Because when will we see? Would see Nadal, Djokovic is in the quarterfinals if it sets up. I mean, the quarterfinals are just set up to be stacked on the men's side, right? And so I think the women are so much more interesting this week. I mean, all these upsets here. Kontaveit dropped out. Ons Jabeur dropped out. I mean, we're seeing these big upsets. I don't think we'll see as many on the men's side. So I'm like you. I've been paying more attention to the women.
Well, that's before we jump over that. Then I mean, give me a pick. I've been leaning Nadal. I'm sorry, leaning Djokovic. Honestly, I think that he's in kind of a nice spot. It sucks that he has to beat Nadal, Alcaraz, and Tsitsipas to win the whole thing. But I think everyone's kind of underestimating him a little bit. But again, it seems to be a coin flip from where's the top half. Who do you think is going to win?
I love Alcaraz here. I think it's his time to go ahead and make it. And I think that Djokovic is going to he's suffering from the fact that he's not. What is it? Steel sharpens steel, right? He hasn't been able to play all these matches. He hasn't been able to be on the tour. While Alcaraz has really been out there and he's grinding. And the other thing is, well, how is he going to adjust to best of 5? Yes, that's a great question here. But hey, I'm happy adjusting to best of 5 when I'm 19 years old and not in my 30s here. And that's one thing that Nadal used to have the huge advantage on. We saw in the Australian Open. It feels like at his age and the way his body's working, he's more of a best of 3 guy now. How many times did he win the first 2 sets in the Australian and go 5? So Djokovic, of course, younger. Probably in a little better condition, less nagging injuries here, but I feel Alcaraz is more battle tested. And of course, his game is so well suited to the clay here. He should feel at home. Clay is probably Djokovic's worst surface, even though he's so good and great at all and defending champion here. But I like Carlos Alcaraz to get it done. I think it's the kid's time to shine. I think he's going to take over the tour, and I think the time is now.
All right, over on the women's side, I mean, it's eager pass, right? Is anybody going to beat her?
I mean, what's funny is I thought Owens was the one that that had the best chance to upset her, and she can't even make it out of the first round. I mean, this is talk about Djokovic. This is Djokovic level dominance here. What we're seeing, where it's just one person head and shoulders above the field, and of course, this is her preferred surface, right? This is where she's at her best. So. It'll be interesting on the hard courts, where Osaka plays so much better. Maybe Andreescu gets back into form. She's definitely on her best at the hard courts as well. But on this clay, man, I think it's really tough to go against Iga, and that's why when we were doing the previews, it's like let's look to win the quarters, because it just feels like I don't see how you can bet against her right now. I've wrote about it before. I said you wouldn't bet against Serena Williams in 2003. You wouldn't bet against Steffi Graf in 98, and you wouldn't bet against Navratilova in 83. And this is the level of dominance that she's showing. So I don't think you get cute here. I don't think you try and overthink it and be smarter than the room. I say you go with the dominant player until she shows that she's no longer that way. I'm all over Swiatek, and I think that you look at other ways to make money betting this tournament here because, it's just they've priced it, they priced it tough. If you got in, it went from 110 to 135, almost 150 pre-tournament. I'm sure it's even higher now, but it seems like she's just head and shoulders above the field.
No, and that's why we did all our Iga parlays for the last couple of weeks. I have to
Yeah.
go back and double check and see what's left, but it does seem pretty dominant. I think there maybe are a couple players. I love Sabalenka, and I do think that if she can put together, kind of some of her best tennis, maybe she has a chance. But yeah, it does seem like Iga pass. But let's get into some actual picks. What do you have for us? I think there's even a men's tennis pick in there. We don't do a lot of those.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, let's go through each one. Halep Schwunk. I'm going over 17 games. Simona Halep used to be the best clay player in the world, right? Before the emergence of Iga Swiatek, right? And Simona Halep's really great on clay. But what we have here is these books know what did everyone like to do on these, right? They go through and they pick all the favorites and they put them in a parlay, right? And they try and make some money. So as a result, they go ahead and these people that they are pretty darn sure are going to win, like Simona Halep, they just jam their money line price up. Then they correlate the totals off that money line price, and then you get totals like this over 17 games. So that means that 6-3, 6-3 I cash. If I get a 6-4 in the first set, I'm looking good. And I think Shunk is a nice young prospect here. I don't know if she'll ever be a top 10 player, but I think she's going to be a staple of the WTA Tour. She's coming into her own here. And I think that, on clay, it's harder to hold serve. Of course, Simona Halep, career like over 50% break percentage on clay. So that's going to be an issue here. But if Shunk can get a couple holds here, get a break or two, this match goes over for easy. Do you want to give your comments on them all three, or do you want me to just run down all three of them?
I'm on board with this one. I mean, I think you need a break from Shunk to cash this. I don't know if she's going to be able to honestly hold enough times for help. So if Shunk breaks once, I think you're in good shape. And I guess I'd just be aware some of these second and third sets have been really quick. A lot of bagels, breadsticks, and twos are there in the middle. But I think you're looking the right way here.
All right, next one, Amanda Anisimova. I see Zane in the chat talking about Anisimova, and yes, great player. And maybe he's right. Maybe she does have the best chance to be Iga. I love Amanda's actually just physical talents. She's born to be a tennis player. She's got the height for the great serve. She generates power almost effortlessly. Doesn't feel like she's really swinging too hard to generate that power. It's just a nice, like when you watch a good baseball swing, just such a nice, effortless flow, right? I really like Anisimova's game here, and the way, most Americans don't do well in clay. She does fine. She made the semifinals here before. And then you have Donna Vekic, who's just returning from injury. It doesn't look 100% fit, doesn't look 100% in form. Got some nice wins in the qualifiers, right? So she is a little bit adapted here. But boy, to go from playing, ITF level qualifiers, which is what you see, at the French Open with the field of 128, so many people already just automatically making it. The qualifying matches aren't as tough as, say, like Rome or Madrid, where it's a smaller field. I think Anisimova is going to be too much of a step for Donna to take, this early in her comeback from an injury. So I like Anisimova to go under. I think that she runs away with it. And I like you talked about those second sets here. I think this could definitely be a case as Amanda kind of winds in and finds the way that Donna's playing. I think that she's just going to run away with it. And I don't see what Donna's going to be able to do at this point without her being, anywhere close to her best level of play to keep up with Amanda, who I think is coming into this tournament in fine form.
Yeah, this is definitely an under spot. I'm probably gonna watch this live, and then, like you said, look for maybe a second set under or something like that. And tell us about this next one. You could just rip on this. I have no clue.
Yeah, I mean, Sissipas is another one coming into the tournament in great form, and I know that people, are a little bit down on him. And I even, when we talked about him, we kind of just left him out. I said he's got a chance to win, but let's be honest, if he was in that top half, we wouldn't think that he has a chance to win. The reason we think that he has a chance to win the French is because he has such a great path to get to the finals. But I think because he has had struggles against the top players, against the elite players, that people tend to downgrade him. But when Tsitsipas plays against players that aren't of his level, he can be completely dominant. He's very at home on the clay. And I think the thing that I look at when I'm handicapping a Tsitsipas match is, does the opponent have like a backhand that can really take advantage of the fact that Tsitsipas does use that one-handed backhand that sometimes can fail to generate the pace and can be a little weak at times going against certain players. But I don't think Musetti has that backhand. I think that Tsitsipas will be comfortable in the backhand to backhand rallies. And then, of course, he has that beautiful down the line backhand to finish off the rally. So I know that Musetti, likes to play on the clay, but Tsitsipas is just a level above. And the other thing is Tsitsipas' serve is so much better. I think he's going to be able to hold easily. That'll lead to easy breaks. When I'm saying under 31, I mean, we're going 6-4 in every set. But like you said, I think that we're going to get at least one dominant set here from Tsitsipas, a 6-1 or a 6-2, and that'll lead us to get the easy under.
I could dig it. I like it. I got a couple picks. Of course, all mine on the women's side. Starting with Bianca Andreescu. You mentioned her a little bit earlier. I love the way that she's playing tennis, and I think she continues to be underrated on clay simply because we just haven't seen much of her. And this is a tough handicap because we don't have a lot of Andreescu clay tennis, and her opponent in this match, Bencic, all we have is terrible results from her. She generally loses in the first round of this tournament in Rome, which are kind of the two tournaments that I use when I'm handicapping this event. And Andreescu is starting to build herself in a little bit of form. I had this match basically to pick him. What do you think of Andreescu as a dog here, spread?
Yeah, I almost when we were sending them, I was going through it. I almost picked this one as well. And it's funny is I felt like it was more just a Belinda fade, right? Anyone that's really a top level player, like I'm not going to do a Belinda fade, right? I'm trying to think of a player who I wouldn't do it with, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. But Andreescu, who's a quality top level player, I'm down. I'm fine with fading Belinda here. Belinda's another one that I think is just waiting for a hard court season. For whatever reason, you would think that her game would translate well to the clay, but I think that she's so reliant on redirecting pace, and the clay doesn't allow her opponents to really, generate the pace, which makes her shot so much weaker, which means she's on defense for too often in the point. I think it's too hard for her to switch into the offensive mode, especially here at Roland Garros. Maybe a little bit different in Stuttgart, right? Maybe a little bit different in Madrid. But here, one of the slowest ones of the whole swing. I think that Bencic really has a lot of problem, and I don't think that her game and her style really lends itself well to playing at Roland Garros.
Osorio laid a bunch of games with her in the first match. We pushed. I'm going to do it again. She gets Pari off the big comeback win, no less,
Yeah.
over Barbara Krejcikova. The two seed wins the first set pretty quickly and then loses outright. I think Pari is going to definitely have a down spot here. Now, she is French, and this French crowd has been super supportive, but Osorio, these conditions are great for her. She loves slow conditions like this. She has a great game for this. And I think, again, we see Pari maybe celebrating a little too much his last victory and not quite ready for just the intensity that Osorio is going to bring here. Happy to lay 4 games, which is a little less than standard juice, and then put another half unit on the -5. Looks like it's about plus 150 or so. I mean, what do you think, Spread? Can the French crowd get Pari another win here?
I think you nailed this handicap. First of all, it's a great letdown spot. Krejcikova is a big name, but obviously not back into tennis playing shape, as evidenced by the fact that her level of play declined so quickly once her stamina was put to the test. And Osorio is a player that I'm really high on. First I kind of pegged her as a defensive player only, but it really feels like this offseason, and it's so short. These players have no time to really work on their game. But it really feels like she's added a nice offensive repertoire in, and I think that's going to come in handy today because I think her defense is already above average on the WTA level. And then you add in that little bit of offense, and she's really a complete player that could hang with anyone on the clay here. And what a great letdown spot, because if you think about it, if you're Pari and Pari's team, I don't think she has too much of a team because she doesn't make that much money, right? But this tournament's already a success. You made a name for yourself. you got a big win and you got farther than you expected. Probably doubled your career prize money with just that one win here. So great let down spot with the player that I think is ripe to take advantage of it.
Another spot here. I'm going to take Emma Raducanu, and I'm going against Sasnovich here. She's someone who I think when people watch Sasnovich play, think of her as someone who have a good game on clay, but generally has disappointing results. Has played a little bit better over the last couple weeks, but again, I think I'm getting a cheap price on Emma here because maybe a little bit of a disappointing loss in Rome, but is starting to build up some form here. It actually never played WTA level clay events before this year, and I think given that small sample size, it's tough for the books to price her. Just looking at this from kind of a pure talent standpoint, also, I think Emma's just a much better all-around tennis player than Sasnovich. So, again, happy to pay Sasnovich, even somebody with a small sample size. I'd have this closer, probably like minus 150, even maybe a little deeper than that. I mean, what do you think of this matchup, Raducanu and Sasnovich?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years ago, Sasnovich was one of my favorite players, and I thought she was an up and coming player on the tour, but she's never really improved. And I think you hit it on the head. I don't know if that she really has the physical ability to compete at the top level. She's not quick enough to be an expert defensive player. She can't generate the power naturally. She really has, remember when I talked about Nisimova's effortless ability to create power? Sasnovich really has to dial it up and put a lot of effort in it to create power. Where Raducanu, you talked about, she's got all the physical skills. She's still learning, and you talked about it. She's free rolling. Nobody has any expectations for her. She played her first match against Teresa Martinkova, a month ago, right? No one expected her to do well on clay. She's essentially burst on the scene. I mean, a little bit of pressure here because obviously the British media, they overhype all their players so much, and I think it's to their detriment. I really do, because they get these unfair expectations on them. We're like American players, right? Like it's just like, oh, whatever, like Anisimova, right? I mean, like nobody's really talking about Anisimova. If Anisimova even loses her match, it's not going to be a big deal. If Raducanu loses this match, it's going to be on the front page of the tabloids, opinion pieces, all this stuff. So I think it can be the detriment, but I think you do have a great style matchup here with Raducanu. If she's able to, just play close to her best, I think she can overcome Sasnovich. Sasnovich does have, that red line capability. Which always scares me when I'm fading her. But like you said, fading her on clay has been profitable so far. So, if it's not broken, let's not try and fix it.
All right, folks, I think that's all we got. You can find Spread on Twitter. He's dancing with variants at Spread Astaire. Again, just put that all together. And you're a busy man. What other shows you got today?
Yeah, so I filmed The Wagering World with 5 Star in Vegas. That'll be out on the feed, and we just basically do like this, about 15 minutes, break down the games to give out a pick, and then of course I will do the NBA rundown at 3:30 Eastern if you want to check that out. Of course, we mainly focus on betting, but we usually bring a expert from the daily fantasy side of the Run Pure Sports team. Today it'll be Travis Mangone. So we'll talk about the game that we discussed earlier, and not only will we go over the props and the side and the total, we'll talk about different ways to create a daily fantasy build, which is always fun, because unlike, I mean, I guess you can put in, 10-team parlays, but, the chance to, put in $15 or $20 and possibly win $100,000. I think that's always fun. It's like, to me, it's kind of like playing the lottery, but you don't feel like you're just, scratching off numbers. You're actually feel like, maybe I can create an edge here, right? Using my brain, but it can be a lot of fun. And I've had some success before using the tips that those guys give us. So we'll be doing the NBA rundown at 3:30. And then, of course, I write daily articles for tennis and NBA on Bookmakers Review. And you can find those all on my page at Spread Astaire on Twitter.
All sorts of ways to get spread in your life. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the little subscription bell in there. Do all that good stuff that makes Andy happy. Thank you to our sponsors, FanDuel and Spread. Any parting words before we close?
No, I'm happy to be on. Like our guy Kyle said in the chat, nice little net worth reunion, and it's always fun to do great content with you.
All right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, folks.